Well, hello everyone. Here to show you that the Mizzou's called the photo coloring activity right here. As you see right here is I went ahead and drew right here. It's like we're using the purple right here. Using the purple crayon. It is the details from what I can remember from of course from the restaurant. It's like over there off of campus at Mizzou. It is basically that you see right here. I go ahead and use, like, say, a variety of colors right here. You got right there is the green, and of course the purple, and then the yellow, and then the blue. It is, but from whenever I first moved to Columbia, it was it's like to say Columbia, Missouri. It is like walking over there off campus. It was, and basically what I can remember about it is like the McDonald's. It used to be McDonald's about right near it was, and knowing about it, that I can remember that you have right here is that you got the steps right here, and I can remember walking up and down these steps right here, to be able to use a phone right here, and that's either call a family member or a friend or something like that. And I can remember to do is like a payphone at about right here, and I can remember that you're walking into the restaurant. It is, and you better probably think about that. Yeah. If you can, draw some of the details, of course, about maybe what the restaurant looked like, from the inside, or then, drawing in, say, just the color, say, of the windows. It is. But let's just say if there was eating, some, if I can remember right, that there was, a few eating tables at about right here. If that would be facing like the southeast or plus a part of the restaurant, it is. And then of course you have right here, if you got like the counter at about right here. It is, if I can remember right, and then you had a drink station around the corner. It was a place about right here to where you can order, you say a meal. It was, and you would go in there and of course place your order on say some on a meal if you wanted like anything that about almost anything that you can think about at that McDonald's. Well, you walk in there, and then of course there will be a place, there will be like restrooms, back right in there, back in the further back in the restaurant. There was a place where you can actually walk into the restaurant. It's like where you walk in there, and then of course you'll get yourself a meal. It is, and knowing about with me though that I can remember I worked at McDonald's for about a year and a half whenever I moved to Columbia was, and knowing about the similar things, like knowing about that I can remember the sandwiches, of course, that I liked that you would buy there, of course, were like the Big and Tasties, and of course were the I think that the quarter pounder it is, and then of course the fried chicken sandwich it was. They gotten those a couple of times, but basically the whole story about that right here is the McDonald's right here on campus. It is, and I remember that knowing about that it's I guess they have like what you call like a book fair in the bookstore in there now, but back a couple of years ago, back in 2002, it was in 2005, that I can remember walking along right here, and of course walking along right here, and I really would not know if there was like what you call like any type of tiger symbol at about right here to where it represents like for the Missouri Tigers. It is. But basically, that if it was like carved out of stone, say in the ground, it is over there at the near the university library. But basically, that you got right there is the tiger symbol. It is, and knowing about with anybody, I go ahead and use, like I say, the purple mixture of blue and purple. It's like for the if it's for the stripes. It is, but anyway, that they have right here is for the tiger. It is. And basically this coloring part right here is you got right here is for the library. It is. And whenever you first walk into the library, that a lot of times they do is a phone where you can make free local calls. It was on the phone right there. And you had the steps right here to where it led you to the main the doors to the library. It was, you go in there. I remember going in there to get on the computer. It was, and of course right here is the steps. It was the stairs to you walking into the library. It was not too far from the credit union, the loan union it is. But anyway, that you have right there, a few other buildings, of course, around campus over there at Mizzou. It was, but anybody could probably more likely think about that. Yep. So besides the colony or the Francis Quadrangle, and of course, a few other places, of course, over there at Mizzou it was, and knowing about you got I think the Heidelberg, I think was about I think about 4 miles, just about right around the corner, from where the McDonald's restaurant was, but anyway, knowing about that. With the restaurant, though, that I can remember going in there and getting a meal it was, and for whatever I can afford, and I'm trying to remember if there was like anything such as you say $1 menu. It's like which I think that there was, and if I can remember right, that the restaurant hours were, I think they closed at if I can remember right, that they closed at 4 o'clock. Say especially like on the weekdays, that they were not open until about 10 o'clock, like usually about with most McDonald's restaurants it was. But anyway, anybody would probably thinking about that, from what I can remember, of course, is knowing about, if I can maybe add some details about more likely that, like with most McDonald's restaurants it was that, if I can remember right, the one heading out, I think it was westbound, it is out, towards, say, the Oklahoma, city, I think it was that one highway 73, or something like that, some highway that they're going out, towards Tulsa. It was that I can remember that there was a McDonald's that would cross the highway out there. And anyway, that you see that, different kinds of McDonald's it is, and if it's, besides, say McDonald's, if it was Arby's it was, and then knowing about there was a big eating area or something like that out there, but anyway, that you have right here is the McDonald's right here. And I can remember going into this McDonald's a couple times back before I even had a phone, of course, to call family relatives it was. And I can remember that the payphone was about, it cost about $3 or $4 to make a phone call. It's like, on the payphone it was. And a lot of times I kept thinking about that, with the payphone, like with most of us, probably think about pick up the payphone and like please insert $3.50 or something like that, and then more likely, and if you did, then the time would have maxed out. More likely would have maxed out, and then they would have wanted 10 cents more or something like that. Nowadays with like Skype and our cell phones, it is like more. I really don't even know if they even have too many of those payphones, but I can remember that they had the payphones there, and they were walking up to the payphone, and if I want to make a phone call, and then of course going into the McDonald's restaurant, I can remember going in there a couple of times, going in and out. Of course, they would be right here stairs. It's like, I guess it was located on, say, kind of the bottom level, but I can remember going up into the stair and walking up the stairs, because I didn't, I lived not too far from there, and knowing about that, I would kind of go into like what you call like a daydream. Is it talking about? It's like what you call like thinking about any type of movie ideas that I had in mind, or anything that maybe I had planned for the weekend, something like that. But anyway, that but with most of us, if we can maybe think about it, it's like for the Mizzou called photo, it's like talk about anything that you can remember that if you did not even go to Mizzou, or if you went there at one time, and just knowing about anything that you probably think about. It's like the way I think about this photo drawing right here, this type of artwork, is knowing about that anything that you can remember. I keep thinking about anything that, from what I can remember, anything maybe that I could maybe think about what they'll have later on available out there on campus it was, and knowing about what I can remember. Of course, the basic things that maybe I try to remember about, it's like if I've been out here at one time it was, where I can still remember. And knowing about with me though, that from what I can still remember, like I remember a little bit, a few things, of course, that walking around there back whenever I lived close by, but on the other hand too, that knowing about that, if I ever been into any of the museums or anything like that, like at the time I wondering, I might, did we go into any of the museums or any of the other so-called say the brass arts center or anything like that. But I really don't know what all new buildings, of course, are out there. But on the other hand, too, that anybody more likely think about if they went to Mizzou, that knowing about that if they closed something, if they closed a bookstore, or if they had anything that they had to relocate or something like that. But on the other hand, too, knowing about the things that have always been there, of course, anybody more likely to think about, like they would say, the Francis Quadrangle, of course, always been there, and then of course the Mizzou, I say the lodge, the loan union, I guess it is, the loan union, and of course that you also had the Mizzou the library, and then of course the stadium. So, anyways, that you have places like that more likely that are still there. It is. But at the time when I was walking, I thought maybe seen something like what you call like maybe a tiger symbol somewhere, say on a lawn part, you say over there off the campus it was. And anybody could probably think about that. That walking in a lot of times, if it's a nice hot day outside, a lot of times it may remind you of some moment it is of knowing about it. It's, for whatever reason that if I can remember right, that for whatever reason I think maybe it was over there off of the loan union building it was, is knowing about. Maybe I thought at some point that there was any type of rest, tables or anything like that in there. And I think that a couple of, besides like McDonald's, I think that they had besides Starbucks coffee. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of any restaurants that more likely that may still be out that way. That besides, you'd say the Heidelberg, and then of course if you like Domino's Pizza, restaurants like that. But anyway, anywhere where you can maybe get a sub sandwich, any outdoor eating places and stuff like that. But anyway, ice cream places, I keep thinking about that after students get out of class it is, and knowing about if there's any restaurants that more likely that they can go to, to be able to, if they get out of class and their next class starts in about 2 hours, and places where they can maybe have lunch it is, until their next class starts up. And I could probably think about that. If I want to go ahead and maybe add something right here, and I can maybe put like what you call like maybe eating table. If anybody has eaten at the McDonald's off of campus before, off of a Mizzou campus, and they can probably think about maybe places that they enjoy sitting at whenever they went in there for breakfast, lunch, or dinner it was. And for whatever reason that I can remember walking in there and then sitting at an eating area about right in here it was, and just thinking about it, that knowing about back then though, that I can remember that whenever I first moved to Columbia it was, and just knowing about it, getting used to the fact about about the town, and of course of knowing about the restaurants and places to go and stuff like that. And I was just thinking about also about what I'm going to be doing for a job. If I was going to maybe be working at this McDonald's for quite a while, or if I was going to maybe get a job somewhere else it was. And I can remember that took a year break, but on the other hand too, that knowing about that with McDonald's it was that I put in applications to about 5 of them around town, and a lot of times, and that was around the time I turned 18 too. Anybody probably think about it, if you're 18 years or older, then you can go maybe think about taking the management. If I can remember right, management. The management position. It's like if you want to be a manager, if you want to take the management position, it is, and knowing about that you had to be 18 or older in order to. Like I think it was 17. I think some places you may have to be 17, but I can remember that the work there, and a lot of people over there at McDonald's I used to work at in St. Charles, of course, that they said that a lot of them would say that that they've been in there, they worked there for 3 years, and they wanted to learn how to be a manager there, and it's like I learned to be a manager, and talking about, it's like I know whenever I turned 18 that I was like, I don't know about manager. That's not really my type. But on your hand too, to know about any memories that you can remember about McDonald's, or if it was a Starbucks coffee or any place like that, we're probably thinking about that. It's like keep in mind is knowing about the place more likely ain't there anymore. But so far as talking about is like something to keep in mind is anything that the way I think about it, if I can actually draw from what I can imagine, it's like draw from my mind, of course, from what I can remember, what I can imagine. It's talk about, it's like, that's like what you call, it's like Topaz, it's like the photo education for me, it is. And anybody probably thinking about that, the Mizzou, the Mizzou, mat, Mizzou mat. Anybody like, hey, it's like talking about the school, it's like, with any type of school it is, knowing about that, it costs money, of course, just to go there, but on the other hand, too, knowing about that, if you're just a visitor or something like talk about with any type of photo, it is photo taken by any type of camera, it is. We can all think about that. Anything that more likely you can do by hand, it is knowing about. It's like yourself as to keep in mind and knowing about between. It's like with the library and of course right here, anybody more likely to think about. Hey, wait a minute, you didn't add anything to this view part right here. It's like college, it's like you got right here's the library. You didn't add anything, of course, any details for the library right here. Pretty much all looks the same, don't it? Pretty much all looks the same. If anybody has walked into that library before and you had the telephone, I remember seeing the telephone right there. And one time, remember, they took it out. But anyway, that you got right there is the purple, and then of course like with the blue right there. And of course, places where people can actually walk if they want to walk around campus, during the time that school was going on. And then walk around and then it's like draw people, but walk right here. And then of course you got right here is that maybe see a few trees right here. You got right here is a tree, but right here it is. But anyway, that you have right here is the steps. It's like for the library. It is, and then knowing about right here, right here's the steps, like, and of course the tiling on the floor, and like tiling for the floor. Other than that they have right here for green, but walk into the library and of course walk out, and then it would be a place where you say you got McDonald's right there, like so north, south, and east and west it is. But other than that, it's talking about right here, it's like for the Mizzou's called photo. It's like talk about, it's like for the call photo, knowing about, it's like he's talking about the memory, talking, by hand. It's like drawing by hand, and knowing about, it's like do the homework of knowing about, Missouri call photo. It's like, for the Mizzou call photo coloring activity.